Jon, talk to me about where you were and what you witnessed.
Yes, indeed. It's been the most unprecedented 48 hours I've ever seen here. I mean, we've been reporting now for 20 years, and we had a pretty horrific Dana incident in Mallorca in 2018 where nearly 20 died. We had another one 3 years ago in the south of the Valencia province where nearly 14, I think 13 or 14 died. But this time, although we had the warnings, we were not expecting to see the sheer numbers of people being dragged away in their cars to their deaths. And it is really, as described, apocalyptic. In particular, in one town in inland Valencia, Pacaporte, where there were 36 people, no less, who actually were drowned, most of them in their cars, including 2 policemen, possibly a 3rd policeman even, and 5 people in an old people's home who were just dragged to their deaths with the water that rose so very fast.
Jon, go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, so up in Ronda where we were yesterday, all the roads were cut off and we had such heavy rain. But this morning I went down and looked at a place called Alara, which was the worst affected region in Malaga. And there I spoke to the mayor and he told me that 35 cars had been swept away, and quite amazing that nobody has died in any of those cars. But I looked and saw how some of these cars had been lifted 7 meters above and dumped on sort of sides of the river that you just couldn't quite understand how they got there, because the force of the river had taken them along with it. It was simply remarkable and terrifying.
Jon, have you ever experienced anything like this before?
Well, I mean, it was amazing because we were in the house and quite a lot of our drive got taken away as the rains popped down. We live quite near a river, and you know, quite frankly, I thought we were going to lose our car at one point. It was so heavy, the rain. We had some people were due to arrive yesterday afternoon to visit us, and they took 6 hours to get out of where they were staying because all the roads out of where they were staying were blocked. We had other friends who were due to fly over from London. They were at Gatwick Airport waiting for a flight that was meant to go at 4 that didn't actually leave in the end until midnight. So as you know, Malaga Airport and Valencia Airport were both closed for a number of hours. I think in total there were 20,000 lightning rays were measured in inland Valencia during the storms of last night. And I think they reckon that, I think you pointed out, a whole year's rainfall fell. That's nearly 500 millimeters. I think it was 490 in Chiva, which is an inland town in Valencia, where that was the record number of rain they've had in that area. And the average, you imagine, for a year would normally be about 400 or 450 millimeters. So
yeah, I mean, the pictures are just heartbreaking, and I know we have some video that you sent us as well. Can you talk about where you were when, I mean, you're awfully brave to venture outside and capture these images of water everywhere, roads, cars, everything absolutely inundated.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I'm saying. It's kind of remarkable, really, that where the video that I took, which is the Guadalhorce River in the Guadalhorce Valley, that area where they took all those cars away, and some of the residents I spoke to who lived nearby said that there'd been like nearly 2 meters of rain in their houses, but somehow, remarkably, no one has died there. Although a little bit further away, I think about 5 or 6 kilometers away, in a place called Alarin, we heard about an hour ago that a British expat, 71 years old, apparently did die of hypothermia. Now, whether he was dragged somewhere and spent the night clinging on to something, we found out an hour ago that he died. We also found out that an 88-year-old woman had died in Cuenca, which is in Castilla-La Mancha. And in fact, literally before, only really recently, about 2 hours ago, the emergency services here in Andalusia announced what's called a red alert. So that's the highest possible alert. First time they've ever done it. They sent to everyone's mobile phones in the inland region of Cadiz. That's, I would estimate, something like 300,000 or 400,000 people got an alert on their mobile phones saying that they should stay inside and not venture out because rains are coming down so heavily. And I don't know if you've had a chance to see, but in Jerez de la Frontera, which is a wonderful city, one of the very nicest cities here in Spain, completely underwater. And I dread to think what will happen, given that Cadiz is probably the poorest, well, it is the poorest region of Spain. A lot of very kind of poor people living in the outskirts, in sort of shanty towns almost. And I dread to think what will happen to them.
You know, we're seeing these events more and more frequently. These storms are becoming stronger, and a lot of climate experts say this has to do with climate change, whether it's the summer heat or the storms and flooding. Things are getting really bad. What is your message to people who are just not taking climate change seriously?
Well, I mean, we're right in the front line here. So if you were to imagine that in Andalusia, we're very close to Africa, and the Sahara Desert is incredibly close. You probably know that Almeria is almost semi-desert. Large parts of Granada are becoming desertified, and even now it's creeping into Malaga province. Now, we've just had 2 years of very severe drought. That we've had walnut trees, chestnut trees have been dying in our garden, and you know, this is happening on a regular scale, where the reservoirs in the province have been down to sort of 20, 25, 30% full. One reservoir was actually down to 8%, which they describe as a dead reservoir. And that was just 2 months ago. Now, this rainfall now that's just come is a whole year's rainfall has come in like just one day. It's obviously fantastic. It's filling up the reservoirs. But, you know, we can't deal with this kind of, this sort of weather phenomenon where we get 2 years with almost no rain, where we might have, let's say, 10 or 15 light rainy days for 2 years, and then suddenly in one day get this enormous downpour. You know, the ground's too hard. Of course, you get a lot of runoff. The water spins off into the rivers, then goes straight down to the sea. And it, you know, as you know, it takes a lot of stuff with it, a lot of topsoil, and that's really bad for the environment. It just exacerbates the problem that we're having from global warming. And, you know, there's no doubt 100% it's happening here, and we really see it.
All right, well, you certainly witnessed it firsthand. We appreciate you sharing your story with us, and we're so glad you're okay. Jon Clarke, thank you very much.